Okay, so just look around you for a second. Your phone, maybe the chair you're sitting on, the coffee you're drinking, none of it just appeared, right? It's all the result of a massive chain of events. Time, effort, materials.
It's so true. We usually only think about the end of that chain, the buying part. But the real story, the part where value is actually created, happens way before that.
And that whole process, that fundamental economic engine, is what we're talking about today. It's called production.
Right. And it's the process of using resources, what economists call inputs, to create the goods and services or outputs that we all want and need.
And we're going to do a real deep dive here. We want to understand how this actually works on the ground, not just in a textbook. So we'll look at how these ingredients are mixed in places like Nigeria and Ghana, but also in, more developed Western economies.
And why getting that mix right is so critical for creating wealth.
Okay, so let's start with the big picture. When we hear the word production, I think most of us, our minds go straight to a factory assembly line.
A factory, a farm, something physical. But that's the first thing we have to unlearn. The economic definition is much broader. It includes, yes, the tangible goods. A tailor making a dress is production, but it also includes intangible services.
Like what?
Well, a software developer writing code, a teacher in a classroom, even a YouTuber making videos. That's all production. They're creating a service output that satisfies a need.
So banking, transportation, all of that counts.
All of it. They are vital parts of any modern economy.
Okay, so if production is happening everywhere in all these different forms, what are the core ingredients? What do you absolutely need to make anything happen?
There are 4 essential ingredients. The factors of production. And you need all of them. If one is missing, the whole thing just falls apart.
Let's break them down. Let's start with the 2 most obvious ones, I guess. Land and labor.
Right. So land isn't just the dirt under our feet. It's all natural resources.
Water, minerals, forests, sunlight.
Exactly. It's the raw materials. The cocoa from the soil in West Africa, the oil from under the ground. And labor is the human part of the equation.
The effort, both physical, like a bricklayer, and mental, like a programmer.
The people. So you have nature and you have people, but those 2 alone aren't very efficient anymore. And that brings us to the next 2 factors, which is where things get really interesting.
This is where the deep dive really begins.
Yeah. Let's talk about capital.
Now, in everyday life, we think of capital as money.
But in economics, it has a very specific meaning. Capital is the man-made tools we use to produce things.
So machines, buildings, computers, a farmer's tractor, a delivery driver's van.
All of it. Capital is what multiplies our effort. It's a force multiplier. And we have to start thinking about different kinds of capital, too.
What do you mean?
Well, there's the physical capital of machines. But what's becoming more and more valuable is intellectual capital.
Patents, research, proprietary software.
Exactly. And also human capital. That's the skills and education a person has. A coder isn't just labor. Their years of training are a form of capital, a highly productive asset.
So if a country invests heavily in education, they're essentially building up their stock of human capital.
Precisely. And that dramatically boosts their production potential. Think about it. 2 factories can have the same land and the same number of workers. But if one is using modern AI-driven looms and the other is using 19th century tech,
the output won't even be comparable.
Not even close. The difference is the capital.
Okay, but who puts all this together? Who decides to build the factory in the first place or to invest in the new AI? Who takes that massive risk?
That brings us to the 4th, and you could argue the most dynamic factor of all. Entrepreneurship.
The coordinator.
The coordinator, the innovator, and the risk taker all rolled into one. The entrepreneur is the one who sees an opportunity and brings the land, the labor, and the capital together to try and meet it.
And that's everyone from, a global figure like Aliko Dangote or Elon Musk, right down to a small shop owner in Lagos.
Yes. The scale is different, but the function is the same. They're all organizing resources and accepting the risk of failure. Without the entrepreneur, land just sits there, labor is unorganized, and capital doesn't get built.
So it's the spark?
It's the catalyst for the whole reaction.
Okay, quick recap then. Land is nature, labor is people, capital is the tools, and the entrepreneur is the organizer who puts it all on the line.
You've got it.
So now we have the ingredients. Let's talk about where this all happens. Economists seem to group production into 3 main types or stages.
That's right. It usually starts with primary production. This is the extraction stage, just taking raw materials directly from nature.
So mining, farming, fishing, forestry.
Yep. an oil drill in the Niger Delta, or a cocoa farm in Ghana. It's absolutely essential, but it's the very first step on the value chain.
Then those raw materials move on to the next stage,
which is secondary production. This is the processing and manufacturing stage, taking those raw materials and turning them into finished goods.
So turning crude oil into petrol, turning cocoa beans into chocolate, building a car.
Exactly. This is where a huge amount of value is added. And finally, you have tertiary production.
And this is services.
All services. Transportation, banking, retail, healthcare, education. The services that either help distribute the goods or are consumed directly by people.
So the truck that moves the chocolate from the factory to the store is tertiary. The store itself is tertiary.
Correct. And the bank that gave the loan to the factory is also providing a tertiary service.
This connects directly to what you were saying earlier about how nations build wealth, doesn't it? The story is often about moving up that chain.
Absolutely. Let's use the cassava example from our sources. If farmers in Nigeria just grow and export the raw cassava root, that's primary production. They make some money, but not a lot. But what if they invest in capital, a local processing plant, and use local labor to turn that cassava into industrial starch before they export it?
Now they're doing secondary production themselves.
And they capture all the value that was added in that processing stage, the wages, the profits. It all stays in the local economy.
So it generates way more income.
Exponentially more. This is why investing in capital and fostering an entrepreneurship is so critical for economic development. You want to move up the value chain.
That makes perfect sense. So let's zoom out. Why does understanding all of this, the factors, the stages, why does it actually matter to you listening right now?
Well, it all boils down to economic growth and your standard of living. First, healthy production creates jobs. That's the most direct impact.
Sure. Jobs on the farm, in the factory, in the delivery truck.
It also generates income. Wages for labor, profits for the entrepreneur. But beyond that, it's what improves our living standards. More efficient production means more goods and services are available, usually at lower prices.
Yeah.
That means we can satisfy more of our wants. Life gets better, materially speaking.
And it also forces us to get smarter.
That's a huge one. It drives innovation. Producers are always in a race to find better, faster, cheaper ways to make things. That competition is what gives us new technology.
But that pressure, that race, it can have downsides too, can it? I mean, the drive for cheaper production can lead to environmental damage or other issues if it's not managed well.
That is the constant tension, absolutely.
Yeah.
There are negative externalities that have to be balanced, often through regulation. But that drive for efficiency is powerful. And finally, for a country, moving up that value chain, processing your own cassava, it boosts your exports.
You're selling high-value starch instead of low-value roots.
Which strengthens your national income and your position in the global economy. It's a game changer.
It's just fascinating how these huge global economic forces all come back to those four simple factors: land, labor, capital, and the entrepreneur.
And how they're combined in those three stages: primary, secondary, and tertiary. It really is the bedrock of how we live.
You know, we've talked a lot about how capital, especially technology and AI, is amplifying what labor can do, and how entrepreneurs are coordinating these incredibly complex systems. It kind of forces you to rethink which of those four is the most important today.
Well, that's a perfect place to leave it. Here's a thought for you to take away from this deep dive. In today's world, this complex, digital, globalized economy, if you had to pick just one of the four factors of production as the single most critical driver of wealth, which one would it be?
Land, labor, capital, or entrepreneurship?
And more importantly, why? Think about which one is the scarcest and which one has the most power to organize all the others.
That's a great question to chew on. We have covered a ton of ground today.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.